It's Reality Check with Craig Price.
I'm an idiot.
4 minutes in and I'm already wrong.
I'm like a monkey. Hello, look at me. You're like a beautiful mind. I'm more like Forrest Gump. So it's,
Craig Price is the man.
I knew it. Craig, shut up.
It's Reality Check with Craig Price. I'm your host, Craig Price, and this week, Jerome Wade is here to discuss performance. Welcome to the podcast. I have another great guest for you this week, but before I get to him, I wanted to remind folks that we're always looking for quality guests who do unique jobs or have a unique expertise. Email me your suggestions to Craig at speakercraigprice.com, and we'll take it from there. So today we're talking about performance. We're consistently hearing about it, high performance, overperformance, underperformance. But to get true quality performance, it takes a bit of forethought, setting some boundaries, and managing expectations. So our guest today specializes in finding ways to get precision performance from businesses and employees. I can honestly say that I'm not doing everything I could to get the best performance on a daily basis. I'm kind of like Yoda. Yoda's this slow old dude who hobbles around on bad knees until it's go time and then exerts a whole bunch of energy. Hopefully I'm bringing the best performance I can for that short period of time, and then I go right back to being that cranky old man, just kind of hobbling and walking away. I guess maybe a cat is a better example. They sleep 20 hours and then they're crazy the other 4. So that's me. I sleep the 20 hours, and then when it's go time, I'm chasing that laser beam as best I can. Either way, if you want to improve your performance, you have my permission to power down a little, rest up, and listen to me discuss peak performance with Jerome Wade.
Performance seems to be the word everyone seems to be focusing on the most lately. I feel that we're in the most productive society we've been, yet I don't know if a lot of people feel that way. What is your overall feeling about how we are as a society as far as productivity is going?
Well, Craig, that's a great question. I think, there's a number of things. The world that I live in is all about helping people achieve extraordinary performance. I have walked a number of different people as well as organizations, through this question. And performance comes down to that simple baseline: am I giving my very best? Am I performing at my absolute best? Am I an elite performer? And so I think in a number of ways, you're right. We are way more productive than we've ever been. There's a lot of cool gadgets and trinkets and toys out there that have provided things for us that can accelerate performance, that can activate greater productivity. But then I think the underlying factor is the only way we can truly understand this is we have to take a moment to personally evaluate our performance potential, because that's really the measure here. We could look at a number of different things. Maybe our friends can tell us, our boss, our clients, customers, maybe an audience. If you're a speaker, they can tell you, they can give you some insight. But at the end of the day, I have to be the one that answers that question for me. You have to be the one that answers that question for you. So performance comes down to that personal metric. Am I really giving the performance of my life? Am I an elite performer?
Now, when you talk about the performance of my life, I'm thinking in this with marathoners. If you're going to run a marathon, you've got to, the night before, you've got to eat a lot of pasta. You got to carb up. You got to, because to be at that level expends a lot of energy. And so are we looking at this long term? Are we looking at this short term? How can we balance that out without burning out?
That's another great question, and I appreciate you bringing up the idea of the marathon concept here. I'm an adventure endurance athlete myself. In fact, this coming weekend, 4 days from now, I'm competing in my first ever half Ironman. So this is real time for me, and I've been asking those questions myself as I have been preparing for this event coming up. There's a number of things that I've been doing. Of course, it's a tri-event, so you've got your running, you've got your cycling, and then you've got the swim. And so I've been doing all of this preparation for it. But behind all of this, I've had to ask the question, can I sustain what I'm doing, or is this for bursts? So there's different levels of performance. There's no way any of us can redline our engine in performance. I did this to a vehicle a number of years ago. I was driving it hard all the time, well, I ended up affecting the performance of that engine. It could not sustain that level of demand and that level of performance, and consequently, that engine will never, ever be the same again. So what we have to learn is the rhythm of our performance abilities. And so there are going to be seasons where we are able to full throttle this. And seasons means a short period of time where we're able to put every ounce of our effort, energy, and focus into a specific outcome. But then there's reality. No one can live at that peak performance state 24 hours a day. And in fact, I don't define peak performance or extraordinary performance at being at that level 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, because it's just not humanly possible. Our bodies, our mind, our soul, we're not designed to redline the engine. And so we have to look at this. How do we really get a sustainable performance standard for ourselves? How do we know when we're hitting that? And then how do we really measure, are we redlining it all? And again, there's nothing wrong with revving that engine. As a professional speaker, I'm going to rev that engine for about an hour. I am going to be at peak performance for my audience. I'm going to deliver results. I'm going to make sure they're engaged. I'm going to make sure the energy in the room is affecting lives and leadership outcomes. But I also have to realize I cannot operate at that same level. And so for professional performance, we have to look at those things. When is it appropriate for me to throttle up? And then when is it appropriate for me to kind of just keep the engine at an idle? So there's different times of our day that we need to look at, different times of our week, different times of the month, where we have to be very aware of what performance energy is this requiring of me. And so I think it's a little bit of both. We want to sustain it long term, but we also want that short-term success. But ultimately, what I think business professionals are looking for is, how can I do this for the long haul? How can I sustain this? How can we create an enduring track record of success without totally devastating ourselves? And part of my leadership journey a number of years ago, I was leading an organization that I had launched. I'm a bootstrap entrepreneur. I've launched 4 different organizations through the last 25 years. And this organization was particularly doing incredibly well. We were at a season of just rapid growth. And the demands of my responsibilities as a senior leader, as the founder, as the CEO guy, and I'm a driven guy already, but we had such unprecedented growth for our organization. Well, I was not monitoring how I was redlining my engine. And I was day after day, some days would be 18-hour days, day after day, week after week. And because we had the success externally, I just kept pushing and I kept driving. Well, what it then began to do was to deplete an energy supply that I didn't have anymore. I mean, it just depleted me to where it started affecting my energy. I could not sustain that. Consequently, the organization suffered because of creating an unsustainable pace and an unsustainable performance standards. So coming back now, a little bit wiser, I'm in my 4th organization now that I've launched and I'm leading. I now have more wisdom now to understand that you have to be very aware of the energy output in your performance. If you want to sustain your success, you're going to have a rhyme and a rhythm that's going to have an ebb and a flow to your performance.
And my guest today is Jerome Wade. He is the owner of the Epic Advantage. And talking about that redlining, you're talking about finding the ebb and flow, but oftentimes there are, especially if you're not the CEO, if you're middle management or you're in the C-suite, but you still are accountable to other folks, they may not know your rhythms. So how do you set up boundaries that allow you to, keep pace without, I don't want to say disappointing, but without, reducing your output?
No, excellent question. In fact, I left a coaching session this morning with one of my clients facing the same thing. And one of the first things that we had to have a conversation about is, what is his personal energy levels these days? And he's experiencing some fatigue mentally, emotionally, physically. There's another level of fatigue that I talk about, and that's soul fatigue, where we have so spent ourselves that we literally have nothing left. I mean, to the very core of our being, we have nothing left. And so in my conversations with him today, one of the things that we began to talk about is how do we create this rhythm so that it is sustainable, but he's not the senior leader. He has people and above him that he's responsible to who have expectations, who have, demands, who've got a job to do themselves and, in leading the team. And so the simple answer to this, now it's a little more complicated in application, but the simple answer is simply to have those conversations that need to be had. When there are demands that are placed on you, if you are in a position to where there is no ebb and flow to the demand, that you are continually, you get to the office, you clock in at 8 o'clock, you get to the site, you have to be full throttle for the next 8 hours, 10 hours, and day after day, week after week. No one can sustain that. So you have to come to that moment where you have those honest conversations with those that you answer to. The hard part is that it, in one sense, for some people, they feel that it's admitting weakness. They feel that it's admitting inadequacy, and that's not it. That's not it at all. In fact, it's the other side of the coin. It's you're saying, listen, I want to make sure that I perform to the best of my ability, but we need to talk about how this is actually going to play out because people are different. One of the things that we do in our company with the Epic Advantage is we've got a precision performance tool that we assess people's profile. Most people have experienced, like a personality profile. Well, we have a performance profile that we assess individuals in, whether that's top tier, mid tier, employees, it doesn't matter, anybody. And 4 parts of our assessment are all about energy capacity and then energy expenditure. So we know what our energy capacity is. Look at it like a fuel tank on a car. Some people, and I mean this with absolute respect, but some people have a half-gallon tank of gas, and they're kind of the size of a lawnmower. You can mow the lawn a couple of times, but they need to be refueled. Other people are going to be like a car. It's got a 20-gallon tank, and they're going to be able to go, let's say 4 or 5 hours, 300 or 400 miles before they're going to need to refuel. Others are going to be like a dually truck that has 2 tanks of gas. They can go 700, 800 miles. Others are going to be like a tanker that might have 1,000 gallons or 5,000 gallons, and then others are going to have a much larger capacity of energy. The first thing you have to know is you have to realize what is my tank? What is my capacity? And then you have to be the one that manages that. And so you look for ways to measure the output. You also measure, mental, physical, emotional, and that soul fatigue that I talked about, so that you are able to sustain. So in an organization, on a team, your manager might be a high capacity. They might be that person that has a 5,000-gallon tank, and when they get to the office at 4 in the morning and they stay until 7 o'clock at night, they just go, go, go. Well, they're the Energizer Bunny, right? They've got that type of energy capacity. So for those that actually might be listening right now, this is a very valuable insight for them. If you are that high-capacity person, you've got endless energy, you've got to be very careful that you don't place that same demand and compare your team to yourself. See, that was what I was doing. I've got this energy that I can just go, 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 and keep going. And I would expect the same thing from my staff, because what I didn't realize is that I thought everybody functioned like this. A little bit of lacking of self-awareness here. I thought anybody, because it was so easy and so effortless for me, I thought everyone could do this. Well, I was wrong. I was placing demands of performance on others that they could not sustain, that they could not, hold over the long haul.
Yeah, I call that the Ted Williams effect, because Ted Williams was the best ball player in the history of baseball, but he was also one of the worst managers that ever managed a baseball team, because when he moved on to become a manager, he thought everybody could hit 400. Because it was so easy for him, and so he would play with everybody's stances, and he would screw up everybody's, because hitting is such all about feeling and how you feel when you're at the plate, and how you take a swing, and what's comfortable. And he would change everything up to try to emulate himself, and he would screw everybody's, and he was wondering why nobody was hitting.
The perfect analogy. I mean, your story right there, and that fits. If more of corporate America could understand exactly the story you just shared, because that's what so many high-capacity leaders do. They come in, I want you to lead like me. Now, they would never say that, and some might. I want you to speak like me. I want you to engage clients like me. I want you to lead your team like me. And you place unrealistic expectations. And so what you in effect do is you set your people up for failure, because they cannot ever, even on their best day, they can't be like you because they're not you. So part of creating that performance sustainability is empowering people to lead in their style, allowing them, empowering them, developing them, coaching them to understand their energy capacity and to then lead from that sweet spot of authenticity. Because if I have to become Craig, and if I started asking Craig to become Jerome, there's going to be immediate problems.
Yeah, you don't want to be me.
I could never be you.
You don't want to be me. You want to be Jerome. Believe me, I've been me for 40-something years. You want to be you.
Right, exactly. Well, and I've been me for 40-something years and almost 50 now. So, so that's another component of sustainability. You've got to be comfortable in your own skin. And I have so many conversations with business professionals frustrated because they don't respect their wiring, they don't respect their performance profile, and they feel like, man, if I could only be like him, or if I could only be like them. And in reality, your greatest impact is going to come when you find your sweet spot. Your greatest performance is going to come when you lean into your performance profile and you be the best version of you and respect that and honor it. And the people around you do the very same thing. They respect and honor your profile as well as their own.
Well, obviously the assessment that you do is been tested and it's been used over and over again, so it's been honed. But for the layman who's just listening today, I find people have a problem with self-assessment. I think people either think they're super amazing, or in most cases, I think people think they're much worse than they actually are. What are some things that we can do to self-assess our performance level to get that energy level?
Well, that's great. I think, first of all, I do think it's very important to, you need to have honest conversations with people you trust and honest conversations with people who will tell you the truth. Right? It's kind of like, watching American Idol, and the mom would come out, oh, my son is the greatest speaker ever, or singer ever, the greatest voice, and my daughter can, just outperform everybody. And they get up on the stage, and we, the listener, says, this is the worst voice I've ever heard. So you've got to find people that are going to tell you the truth. Your mom's going to tell you the truth, but it's mom's truth, and that's not going to give you that picture of accuracy that you need. So a key part of that, outside of doing an assessment like what we provide, is to listen to those who work with you, listen to those who work for you, listen to those who you work for, listen to your customers and clients. In fact, one of the things that I've done over the last 6 months as our business continues to grow is I needed to hear from my clients. What are the results that we're delivering for you? Because we see tangible results, and we see certain things that are moving forward, and our clients are seeing the results they want organizationally, personally, professionally, and with the solutions that we provide. But I want to hear it from them, because they're going to give me that more accurate perspective of this is your sweet spot. So a self-assessment is going to require having the courage to let others speak into what you're good at and to let others speak into what you're not good at. Let me give you, for an example, a senior leader whose organization was rapidly growing, was phenomenal at the vision casting, was phenomenal at the high altitude direction of the organization, but absolutely would just fumble the ball every time he would lower his leadership to management. Now, and I don't mean that as management is less, but he needed to stay at high altitude leadership, big vision, but not get into the processes and systems of management. Well, he kept dipping into management systems, and it was frustrating everyone. He thought it was a proficiency. but everyone else around him was absolutely frustrated. He had turnover because of it. He had organizational performance challenges because of it. And finally, the day when he started listening to what others were saying about his strengths and then also his weaknesses, that's when the game changed. He realized, wait a minute, I've thought I was good at that, and I'm not. I'm really good at this, and that's where I need to stay. And that's in that high-altitude leadership. So I think a key part of assessing your strengths for performance and productivity is to hear what other people have to say and be open to it. There may be things that are said, and likely there will be. If somebody's telling you the truth, there's going to be things you don't really like what they say, but still listen to them. Don't be defensive and resistant. Just hear what they have to say and then personalize that as you feel is best, for your situation, for your story. I think another way is to just look at the areas of your life that you shine. Look for the things that you do that are obvious core competencies that they're almost effortless. I mean, in some ways, it's like it's easy. Even the story that you mentioned before, it's easy to swing the bat your way, and so you find your way of doing things that's obvious. So it doesn't take rocket science. It doesn't take an assessment tool to figure out what you're good at. Just find those things that come naturally, those things that bring you joy, those things that other people brag about that you do. And so those are some simple ways of trying to do some self-assessment, I think.
Well, once we figure out what we're good at and we figure out how to maintain our energy level, because that's only a piece of the puzzle, what are some of the things that you prescribe to maintain excellence over a long period of time? How do you fuel that extraordinary performance that you talk about?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the question. So a key component, and we've talked about it a little bit so far, you really have to know yourself with accurate insight. You must know yourself. And one of the things that I see in top performers who have the kind of success that I'm trying to achieve, and clients that I've led to that same level, they know themselves very acutely and accurately. So they don't leave it to the world of guessing. They don't leave it to the world of, well, I think I'm pretty good at that. It's things that they know they're good at. So you find somebody who is, that expert who truly is gifted in a certain area. They are refining their gift. Now, the other thing that they're doing, they're leaning into their gift. The other thing that they're doing is they stay away from those things that are outside of their core competency. They are doing everything they can to distance themselves from roles or responsibilities, opportunities that don't align them with their strengths and let's call it their superpower. So they're staying away from their kryptonite, and they're embracing their superpower. And that is one key strategy of excellence over the long haul and that performance and productivity that you're looking for. You really do need to drill down and know yourself. Stay away from the kryptonite, embrace your superpower. Something else very important to this is you must be committed to personal growth. You need to be listening to podcasts like what you do, Craig, and great podcasts that you've got here. But you need to be listening to people who are sharing inside information. You need to be reading books. Right now I've got a couple of books on my desk that are important to me. I'm reading a book. I'm becoming a paragliding pilot right now, and so I'm reading a book on paragliding. And so, I'm always growing and developing, whether that's personally, professionally, or organizationally. I have those influences that are coming. I'm listening to speakers, through a podcast or vlogging. I'm listening to people who are doing things that are sharpening me. So that's another key component. You've got to know yourself, then you've got to continue to grow your mind. Another component that's very important, and this is something that I haven't always been the best at, and that is developing that physical performance. Early on in our segment here, you talked about, the marathon runner that's maybe that elite runner, that elite person, that athlete. Well, we need to become people who really take care of ourselves physically, because one of the key limiters of long-term performance is our mind might be mentally sharp, but our body can't handle the demand. Now, that's something that can be fixed. That's something with the proper diet, nutrition, and exercise that you can actually begin to activate greater potential, greater performance when you take care of your body. I started last year, 2016. I was 238 pounds. That's not a big guy, but I mean, it's heavy. And I had a client just give me some insight, and he just said, Jerome, I think your weight is getting in your way. And I took it to heart. I said, you know what, you're exactly right. I'm a professional speaker. I'm on stages all over the place, and I need to be that example because I'm the performance guy, right? I'm helping people achieve that extraordinary performance personally, professionally, organizationally. So I started a quest last year to lose as much weight as I could that was healthy. I lost 50 pounds last year. What I developed from that also was the ability now to become an endurance athlete. So Sunday before last, I went for a 10-mile run, but now keep in mind, I live in Albuquerque, New Mexico. I started my run at 6,000 feet altitude, ran 10 miles to the top of the mountain, which was 10,500 feet. So this was a pretty demanding run for me. But now my body's at a place where I can keep pace with what my gift is. And so I think that's another key component here. So you've got to know yourself. You've got to grow yourself. You've got to also take care of yourself. And so taking care of yourself is that physical health, emotional health, making sure that we're resolving things of our past, and then keeping our mind sharp. So I think those are some key components there that help people develop the long-haul success that they're looking for.
One of the last things I wanted to talk to you about is that there is a trend now, and it's something that I don't think could have happened 30, 40 years ago, but it's definitely happening now more and more, is that people are realizing that they have multiple gifts, and those gifts may be in diverse areas that are unrelated to each other. So how do you pivot? Because I know second careers are a thing. I know, and that's for mature workers, but there's also 30-year-olds who are in IT who all of a sudden want to do something completely different. Open a cupcake stand or become a photographer or something else that is their business. It's kind of going into what they love versus what they're really good at, which can sometimes be the same, but sometimes you love things that are not high performance. So that pivot of, I'm going to try something completely different because I really have the passion to do it, but yet I've been doing this other thing my whole life.
Well, I've mentioned previously, I've launched 4 different organizations. Those have all come at kind of tipping points for me, pivot points, just to use the word you were using there. They were pivot points. I was in love with what I was doing, but then all of a sudden something else emerged, and I went, wow, I really think that's what I'd like to try. So I had the courage to take critical steps. Even the most recent step I took was launching the Epic Advantage 3 years ago. So I was 46, 47. A lot of people, they find it very difficult at that age and stage of life to pivot, although so many of them want to. So a key component then is to have the courage to take that step, to follow the passion, to follow the dream, to take the chance. Now, to your specific question, when you've got several areas of proficiencies, you've got several areas of strengths and abilities, there is going to be 1 or 2 of those that are going to rise to the top. There always are. You might have multiple passions, things that you really want to be a part of, be engaged in, and you might even be pretty dang good at them, but you really want to hone in on those things that make you exceptional, that give you the extraordinary advantage in your performance and in your productivity. Oftentimes we have a number of different things that we're good at. What I've discovered is that those actually diffuse our impact. They dilute our performance and our productivity, when in fact what we need to be looking at is how do we distill it. So how do we make it the irreducible minimum of our life pursuit? This is my absolute core competency. I'm going to stay in my sweet spot. I have other passions. I have other interests. And I might dabble in those a little bit, but I'm really going to put my effort and my energy into what I'm best at. And that's I think, just through years of experience and heartache and heartbreak, trying to do too many things, trying to be too many things to people. So for that person that might be facing that exact circumstance that you're talking about, Greg, they really need to look at that thing that keeps rising to the top. It's going to be the thing you can't shut up about. You're going to talk about it all the time. It's going to be that thing that just comes effortlessly and naturally to you. And that doesn't mean the business develops just overnight. Sometimes it does. But it's going to be that thing that just keeps rising to the top. And you want to pay attention to that and I'm going to use a very select word here, you want to honor that gift, because that's the gift that you were destined for. That's the gift that you were given, that is your contribution to unleash your greatness in the world. And so to do anything else is cheating yourself and cheating others. It's cheating the world of the greatness that your life has. And so that, for me, is a key component, is find out what you love and what just is an absolute core competency. Even though you might have several things you're good at, find the one or two things that you're absolutely the pro at and give yourself to that.
Well, Jerome, you speak all over the country, all over the world. You work with organizations. How can people find you and possibly work with you or bring you in to speak?
Absolutely. My website is pretty simple. It's epicadvantage.com or jeromewade.com. Both of those will lead you to the same place. That'll give you plenty of information about what we do for, the solutions that we provide. Epic, by the way, the name of our company, the Epic Advantage. Epic stands for Extraordinary Performance Intentional Culture. That's the EPIC, Extraordinary Performance Intentional Culture. My contact information is on the website at epicadvantage.com or jeromewade.com. And I'd love to engage in conversations. I have personal solutions for executives, professionals, really people at any stage of life and leadership that are wanting to move forward. I have also organizational development solutions where we train teams and organizations with culture or performance. And then, of course, I'm a conference and event speaker, so I speak at a variety of different associations and events, corporate and nonprofits. So I've got plenty of opportunities here to, provide some benefit and solutions for those that are a part of our program today, and I would love to chat. So if you're listening, please connect to epicadvantage.com, and let's take our conversation to the next level.
Well, I certainly appreciate your time today, and good luck with your Ironman in a couple days, because I get winded just hearing about people prepare for that. It's just,
It's going to be epic, man. It's going to be epic.
That's the show. Thanks to Jerome for his time. If you have questions, comments, or guest suggestions, send them to Craig at speakercraigprice.com. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at RealityCheckPod. Download the app or sign up for the newsletter at realitycheckpodcast.com. We'll see you next week.